Welcome back to 5 Acre Sunny Farm. I'm Tara Lynn, and I have been stuck inside on Zoom all day, and I am just heading out to check on all of the critters. So I figured I'll take you along with me, and as I'm going around, I'll show you some of the gardening spaces. And this time of year, where we're kind of late summer, in between the changing of the seasons, it hasn't really officially started yet. I'm just seeing a fox running across the street right now. Interesting. By the time I flip this around, probably won't see it anymore, but I'll just keep an eye on it. But kind of like in this changing of the seasons, everything's a mess. So I kind of call it the messy middle, because we're not really officially done with summer. We're really not officially starting fall. And I'll kind of show you the craziness and the jungle of everything. And I think the fox is now gone beyond. So, which is a good sign. I'm glad I saw it, because I was about to let the chickens free range, but now I'm not going to do that. And I also now need to keep a closer eye out if we've got a fox hanging around. So I'll take you around. I'm going to check on the quail first and give you an update on those, which I've got some really cute little ones to share too. Alright, this is actually one of the chicks that had the troubled time recently that I shared about. This is actually one of the younger ones that's matured now. They're about 7 weeks old. Take you inside here. And then their mealworm snacks. It's their favorite. So cute. These guys are hanging out here. Good job. Yeah, these guys are just turned about 7 weeks old. They're just looking for some more mealworms hanging out here. Right. But I see that they're using their little cottages here for some egg laying. I'm glad they're doing well, because I think you saw my last hive inspection video. There was a snake in the coop, so I had to go in there. But the hives are kind of going through that troubled summer, messy middle time. So I had 4 here. The one that had been on the end on the right, the queen had kind of disappeared. And so then the one that's really tiny here on the right now, they decided to make a new queen. So I'm kind of not totally confident they're going to do that this time of year. So just got the 2.5 right now, but really only 2 colonies, since I'm not confident there's a queen in there. The pumpkin vines here, so in years past, our entire front lawn is pumpkin vines, but they just, with the heat this year, they didn't take off. But these are doing great. So I've got a few little pumpkins going on over here. I'll be harvesting those shortly. And the high tunnel, I haven't had time to get everything in here, but we've got these spiders hanging around. So it's been hard navigating around with these spiders. I really should just kind of move them to the edges. But what I've been really focusing on is just doing sections at a time. So I pretty much did a quarter of the high tunnel. So this little section up here. And so my plan is in the next week to do the other half of this side. And then same thing with the other side of the high tunnel. And just work my way around, so that way all of the fall seedlings will be in this month. My little lemon trees over there. But the tomatoes were really sad. I mean, there's some that are fruiting now, but they're not looking good. In the past, I've generally removed the sick tomatoes immediately, and I just haven't had the time to do that this year. And it's also been hard, like I said, with those spiders around. They just are everywhere in there. The in-ground garden is also experiencing the messy middle. It has been really hard to navigate the garden because of these really thorny blackberries that are kind of now my project to remove them. Well, before we go in, elderberry. I have 1 elderberry bush here. I'm planning on taking a cutting this week and trying to propagate some for a later fall planting. I've heard that they're really easy to propagate. So if you have experience propagating elderberry, please comment, let me know your tips. I'd love to learn them. And in the garden right now, I do have a few follow Baker Creek at all, they had featured this like pink, like ruby buckwheat a few years ago. So that's what I have growing here. I just have like random things in random places right now, but there's definitely a good chunk of weeding that needs to be done. I'm really happy with this Japanese tomato cage. So I've got a compost pile in the center. These tomato plants, they didn't produce anything all summer, but they have looked the healthiest out of any of my garden spaces. So this is a really good sign to me that I should continue. I'm trying to just trellis these while I'm doing this with one hand. But what I wanted to share too is, you may not know this, but like you can make sure, see, like just by shaking these open blossoms, that they'll be pollinated. So some folks will use like an electric toothbrush and go around to every blossom. I feel like that's overkill. I just make sure when I see the blossoms open, I come out and give them a good shake. And the temperatures this week are perfect for setting fruit. What we've really been experiencing here is it's just been too hot and there's been blossom drop. So really hoping to get at least some good snacking. This is such a mess here. Get some good snacking tomatoes this fall, because we do got probably another 6 to 8 weeks before the first frost. So there's definitely time for these tomatoes to set in. I'm really happy with this tomato cage style of growing with the compost. I definitely will do it again. Ignore the sweet gum tree. I just haven't had time to cut it out, but it's not meant to be here. All this bee balm has been growing like crazy, so I'm planning to transplant that over to the pond garden and the orchard. This whole space I just mentioned before about the blackberries being crazy. So I spent so much time this whole area I took 8 blackberry bushes out so far, but there's probably, I would say, like 20 to 30 more that I need to pull out. Like they just keep spreading. So I'm going to transplant some to other parts of the property and out to the other apiary in the mountains. And I've given away a bunch to friends. But look, this is like 12 feet tall. Like this is ridiculous. They need to be trellised. They need to be outside of the garden so that I can get in here and actually plant. There's some volunteer tomatoes that have come in. So these have been really delicious. I've just been, as I come out here, just snacking on them while I remove the blackberries. And this is pretty much my only really great pepper plant this year. And I started like 30 pepper plants. Okay, so like that one is really, really good. So I'm waiting for those two to come into fruit there. And yeah, so I'm just going to kind of take it like section by section. I did plant a random sweet potato in here because I didn't have good luck a few years ago, but just going to try it out again. And I have these teeny tiny little asparagus that I planted in the spring. I grew from seed over the winter, but they really haven't grown at all. So I'm planning to like apply some fertilizer there in the next few weeks and again in the spring to like try to give them a boost. We're at the pond garden right now, which looks really complicated right now because it's, like I said, the messy middle, and this is the very messy middle. And in my last garden tour video, I had shared about all the problems I've had with this pond, and so I'm doing some upgrades to it. And as you can see, I can't really do upgrades during the day because the bees need their water. So I have not had time early in the morning to work on this the last few days because that part just arrived a few days ago, so I couldn't really do any work. I've been waiting. I did have some great weather. That part arrived earlier last week. So my plan was to set this up so that I'm going to put some more support under this shallow end, and it's going to flow into this. I'm going to have it on an angle, and then that little one is going to go down in that corner, and then I have a lot of rocks that I'll be moving over here and completing this rock wall, setting it up over here, and then what I think I might do now that I'm seeing how this is laid out. Wow, these bees are like super into their water right now. It's actually not that hot out, so I'm curious why it's so important to them right now. But But I think because there's this extra space here, I might get another one of these and hang it out over here. However, I only have one solar pump and it just kind of like aerates the water. So like I don't want these things to turn into like mosquito breeding grounds and stuff. So I'm just gonna research to see if there's like a solar recirculator that I could have kind of pumping through, kind of like a waterfall fashion. I really didn't want to do that because that actually introduces a lot more evaporation, and you can already see with just the heat and this little aerator that how much evaporation has occurred. I mean, this whole thing was full probably 2 weeks ago. And I mean, there's also deer coming by to drink, and you can see the bees are coming to drink as well. So there is definitely a lot of consumption happening. But just in general, I wanted to kind of reduce as much evaporation. But of course it is in full sun, so really it's going to evaporate. But what I'm going to be doing after I get these new pieces in and the rock works in, I have some screens, and over like a majority portion of the water, I'm going to put the screens on to help prevent the accumulation of all the leaves. Like I do want some leaves in there for the winter to be a habitat, but I don't want it to be like a swamp of leaves. So that's one thing I'll be doing shortly. So some other little upgrades here that I have done, which I have had time for while I was waiting for the parts to come in. This had a tarp over it all summer, so this now has cardboard and a layer of topsoil underneath. I have more topsoil to go around, and I'll be planting pretty much native plants in here. I've got some coneflower seedlings, and then, you know, the bee balm from the garden, plus some of that bee balm here has been spreading, and I had transplanted that from the woods. So just trying to use what I have, and I'm trying to reduce buying any new plants right now. So I'm really kind of looking to the existing landscape here and putting in what I see. So I've got a lot of dwarf irises in the woods, so I was planning on bringing those here. Also some baby red buds are in the woods, so putting those in here, but not too many. They don't cast a tremendous amount of shade when they're mature, you know, because they're fairly like scrawny and skinny. And I actually purchased some redbud seedlings that are planted in this mess over here. And so then I realized I have so many seedlings in the woods, and I shouldn't really be spending $15 on each tree when I've got dozens and dozens of them that I can just relocate over here. So that's going to be kind of like just native plants in this area. So this, I know you can't really recognize it right now, but earlier in the year and in other videos, there are 2 raised beds in here. One is actually cleared out, and I think in my last video I kind of showed it, and I was going to do some fall plantings in there. I'm kind of indecisive right now about what I want to put in, because I will need to protect it. And I moved the tarp that had been here over here now, so I'll be extending this bed out. So Miss Duchess has been broody for over a month. So every day, a few times a day, I take her out of here and put her by the water. And Miss Lady says, I don't know why she's so crazy. I don't know why. No reason. She's being nuts. She's being nuts. One of the other areas I'll show you is an update on the orchard food forest space. And this is American Beauty Berry. So just to give you an idea, I'm kind of planting the food forest space with an eye for the future. And so like just considering like this bush is about my height, about as wide as it is tall, and this I didn't plant. This just showed up on its own along the walkway here. So the space that I've been working on, got the coop, is this orchard area. So this part I haven't really touched very much. I've got 1 fennel, actually 2 fennel, blackberry, and some apple trees. And then the space that I've just been working on over the long weekend is here. So I had I had 2 tarps down here for the summer, and same thing where it just suppressed and killed the weeds, so I moved them aside. and did cardboard and topsoil, and some other beauty berries that started popping up in other places. So I transplanted 2 here. One didn't make it, but the other one did. And I'll flip this around to kind of explain a little bit more. So yeah, the one that did not make it is here, and the one that did is there. We've got fennel in here. It's been here for almost 2 years. Another fennel. Blackberry went in this spring, and the plan is for this whole space, and I have the tarps down in the spaces where there were gaps, so there's still like grass and weeds in there. So I'm planning to keep that tarp down for another month or so, and then just fill in the space with some topsoil. So looking also to just try to plant things from around the property that are already here, with a focus on edible plants. So the beauty berries and the bee balm, you know, those are edible. But then I'll also be integrating some more like Mediterranean style herbs, you know, like rosemary and different things. So that'll be coming in here, and potentially like a strawberry ground cover, or maybe creeping raspberries or something like that. And I just realized I was holding this down. So in any case, I'm gonna be intensely planting this because of how crazy the weed pressure is. This looks nice now. It'll look nice throughout the winter, but by this time next year, it's gonna look just like that craziness at the pond garden. So I want to try to establish the things that I want in here first, and then just make sure I have like routine controls scheduled, so that things don't go crazy like they have in other parts of the garden areas. Also an update, because I've had several popular videos on preventing apple cedar rust on the apple trees. So this tree looks really healthy. I mean, there's some bug damage, but no signs of the rust on here. I can show you an example of what it looks like. Actually, I think this is the one that has probably the most evidence of it. Yeah, so this yellow part that kind of has like this kind of like spore-like stuff underneath. This is really not the season to really see it, but this is one that had some trouble. But I would say like more than half the trees don't have it, and that's I'll link to the controls that I've used for that. But yeah, I'm just gonna kind of do a walkabout through the woods in the next few weeks, and look for some seedlings that would be ideal for interplanting in here. So once this area is established this fall into the winter, my plan is then to focus on this space. So I'll be tarping in between these trees, kind of like you can see a diamond shape here, but also coming out this way. So this will be another area. I'm going to research some more native edible plants to put in through here. And then, and there may be some non-native plants too that I'll be putting in, but trying to focus on, what's naturally going to develop here. And then this whole space, I'll try to come back here so you can see a little bit better how I'm planning this. The pathway, which ends here, I'm gonna probably take that bush out. I had kind of left it because it's like a good little space for the chickens to hide quickly if they have like some predator flying in, but it looks pretty sickly and stuff, so I think I'm just gonna eliminate that. And then from this whole section I'll tarp probably this time next year, next summer, so that this time next year this will be like freshly done, and this will all get soil down to the corner here by this little wall, and down there. And so this will all be a garden space with a pathway here, and then of course this is our path to come down to the chickens. So then as these trees mature, and these kind of like kitchen herbs mature and fill in, and like the beautyberry, like as I get more of those seedlings through here, then it'll be kind of like walking through this like really nice edible landscape. So that's the idea, and that's like the vision for it. but of course right now it's the messy middle, so it just looks like it doesn't have a rhyme or reason, but there really is. I just wanted to give a close-up shot of these beauty berries. They're gorgeous, and they are edible. You can eat them. They're pretty astringent, and I feel like I see that word described online associated with these berries quite often, but it is the most appropriate term to use with them. They are highly astringent. I wouldn't want to snack on them, but like if you just wanted to like grab a few to eat, I think that's fine, but I wouldn't like regularly snack on them. I think I've mentioned earlier in other videos that I attempted to make a beauty berry jelly a few years ago, but the gelatin like didn't set. So I'm thinking of making a syrup. That's what I ended up converting it into. But I'm thinking of either drying these and seeing how they taste dried and maybe using them in baking. But I also want to try making the jelly again. And the chickens will come up and nibble on the lower ones a little bit, not all the time, but you know, there's plenty to go around between this one and the other bushes here. So plenty for the birds of all kinds. 2 more updates before I let you go. The moringa is doing fantastic. So you may have seen a recent video where I went over the health benefits of moringa and how I've grown it from seed. And I've been dehydrating some of this, so I'm just gonna wait for, you know, just watered everything. I'm gonna wait for this to dry off, and then I'll be, and what I kind of shared in earlier videos, like I'll just trim right here, and so then this part is what I'll put in the dehydrator, and I leave majority of the plant here. Lots of new shoots coming up. It's just, I mean, it is in a grow bag, but it's almost as tall as me. I'm probably like another maybe 8 inches taller than this right now. Like I'm not very tall, so I'm hoping it makes it through the winter. I'm planning to put it in the high tunnel. I had also my moonflower, which is like vining through, oh good, there's another blossom on it. It's, yeah, another one too. Okay, so this is kind of vining through all these plants. I really want to put this somewhere where it will be a beautiful centerpiece, but I'm like hesitating to like either plant it in the ground and have it grow across the deck, because then if we have to do, which we will, need to do some board replacements in the next few years, it's just going to be such a mess. So I'd rather not have anything like permanently growing on the deck. You know, the tomato trellis is a nice seasonal thing. So if you have any recommendations for good places to grow moonflower, I've had a few ideas. I'm thinking of maybe putting up an arbor, but it's just like, why should one plant be so much work? And I just want to like try to use what I have already, but we'll see. You know, and as the temperatures are cooling off for fall, the tomato plants are like not super healthy, but like they're actually like fruiting, which really didn't happen much this year for me. And the kale has never bolted this summer, which has been great. The other thing, which was a learning for me this fall, so I had started my fall seedlings mid-August, and I have like, it was a really cool morning and the forecast was like actually pretty cool for a few days. So what I did 2 years ago is I started my fall seedlings inside under grow lights, and then it takes a little bit of time to like harden them off. I was thinking I could save some time and start my seedlings outdoors so that they're just already acclimated to the weather. However, we had some heat waves come through and things, so I pretty much raised them on the porch, and you know, in the mornings and evenings I gave them the direct sun. So they were fairly hardened off, and then a few days ago, I'll show you here, I left them out on the deck because they were officially hardened off, like they were doing great. No, you know, they weren't, oh, this one's stuck here. Oh, because I just had lifted this tray, poor thing. So what happened, short story, is that although they were great and heat tolerant, the trays got so hot in the sun that like wherever it was like resting here, it basically like melted the plant. So had some fatalities there. That's okay though, like I started more than I had expected to get. And I'm direct sowing a lot too, but this is kale, kohlrabi, beets, and I figured this would just kind of be like an extra like jump start on things if the direct sow stuff is kind of like slow to get started and stuff. So just a good learning so that in the future I really should not leave them out all day in the full sun until it's actually like maybe in the 70s and not in the 80s still. So other than that, that's the update on like the deck garden and actually like a little this amaranth, this Love Lies Bleeding, it just keeps getting longer. I didn't realize, like I thought it would like, it was like here, then it was there, and it just keeps going. And I've heard these are super invasive, and I can, understandably so, because of how tiny and dispersal of all the seeds. However, I kind of would like to grow some in a separate area. Like I want to make a grain garden. If you're interested about that, I can do a video about like what my plans are for the grain garden. I would like to, I mean, it would be great if I could just grow the feed for our quail and the chickens, but I kind of would settle for being able to grow treats or partial feed. So that way, just to kind of like have stuff on hand. And there's a stink bug climbing up here. But yeah, so if you have experience growing amaranth and you know, good ways of like containing it in different areas, you know, I grew it on the deck as an experiment, and you know, we'll just kind of see how it goes. All right, I can't end this video without showing you the cuteness of these babies. So we got 20 quail. So you may have seen a recent video where I shared a pretty sad experience we had with a pet sitter's helper. So I wasn't planning on hatching any of these. These are mainly to replace the chicks that had died with our bad experience. So these guys are doing fantastic. I had 0 fatalities with this hatch. I've got 20 chicks. They will be going out with the adults in 1 week. So they pretty much, some of them don't have, you know, their true feathers yet, but a week from now they're all going to be super filled in, and the temperatures are still super mild, in, you know, low 60s at night and 80s during the day. So no worries there about the temperatures. So please give me some updates on your gardens and your critters and bees in the comments, and like and subscribe, and I'll give you some more updates soon.